Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sara.
And I'm Allie.
And we are here to talk about the Olympics semi-finals. Wow, Allie. I mean, I think any game Brazil plays in at this point is just destined to be chaotic.
I think your curse has struck again, because whenever you supported a team in the World Cup, they got knocked out. This time in reverse, you said, I'm not supporting Brazil. I'm not going to make them my dark horse because they always fail me. And now look.
I was actually thinking about that while I was watching the game. I was like, are you kidding me? Years I have picked Brazil as the dark horse. In years they have failed me. And finally I was like, no more. I will not be made a fool of. And now here I am. And I've been made a fool of. So thank you, Brazil. And thank you for reminding me of that, Allie. I forgot that every team I rooted for in the World Cup was cursed, including when I legitimately was rooting for England in the final. Sorry to bring that up. We're talking semifinals. The USA beat Germany 1-0 to go into their 6th ever Olympic gold medal match. And Brazil take down Spain 4-2 to go into their 3rd ever gold medal match.
Yeah. And if we follow up on our bracket, we're only 1 for 1.
We're both 1 for 1. This is the problem with both of us having the same gold medal match. Although I think we definitely had different bronze medal matches.
Yes, because I had Australia.
And France.
And France.
I had Germany and France. I got 1. And we both had USA Spain in the final. We got the US. I mean, the curse of the back-to-back. Nobody has ever done World Cup champion and then the following year followed it up with a gold medal in the Olympics. Why do you think that is, Allie?
I think they're such different tournaments. And that's the problem. I think you can have a winning formula for the World Cup, but you have a bigger squad. You have more depth you can play with. Whereas the Olympics, it's a tight turnaround. As we've been saying, it's been games every 3 days, regardless of when you are, rather than being spread out. And also there is a lot more traveling than there normally is in a World Cup. Like, they were just saying on our broadcast over here that Spain had gone from Paris down to Lyon to go back to Paris if they won their match to play the gold match. They now got to go on to Marseille for the bronze medal match. Like, it's a lot of traveling around France.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get you in trouble here, but you mentioned that they're different tournaments. So would you say that the winners of the World Cup are usually maybe more likely to be the best team overall?
Ooh.
Or it's just different?
I think it's just different. I think the World Cup is probably the one that people prepare for most. And having spoken to a few footballers, as we have on this podcast, a lot of them, if you're based in the US, the Olympics is probably just as important as the World Cup. But if you talk to some European footballers, it's not really. Like, it's sort of a fun thing to do if you qualify for it, but it's not like, you know, pivotal that you get into the Euros, or it's pivotal that you get into the World Cup. So I just think there's less importance placed on the Olympics. So the first game we have to talk about was the last semi-final, which was Brazil versus Spain. Brazil took it 4-2 against probably every bookie's odds, everything, because Spain were odds-on favourite. Everybody was talking about how the semi-finals have been engineered so that it was a USA-Spain final, and Brazil was like, let's hold off on that. And here we are.
Quickly, it was really funny. After the US game, Emma Hayes was asked who she wanted to win, and Emma Hayes said, quote, "I don't care, I want a drink." We all assumed she wanted Spain so she could take on the world champions. But alas, anybody that put money on Brazil, like you said, you came up big. Brazil take it 4-2. After, might we add, these two teams were in the same group. And Spain beat Brazil 2-0 in the final game of the group stages. So extra odds, it kind of felt like that Spain were going to take it. However, we mentioned yet last episode that it is hard to beat a team twice in a row. And honestly, let's just start from the beginning of the game, because this was Brazil's from the jump.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I will say that Spain came unstuck the same way they came unstuck against Colombia, but unfortunately for Spain, unfortunately for Brazil, Brazil had the thing that we've been talking about, every single team. They have depth. They had players that they could pull off the bench and bring on to shore up that win, whereas Colombia couldn't. And you saw it within the first, I believe it's 4 minutes. It's gone down as a Paredes' own goal.
It wasn't though. Like that you know, it
like
was,
that
but
goal
it
was going in
wasn't.
regardless. But they
that's
just
such
had
a
to give it to whoever got the last touch, which unfortunately has gone down as Paredes' own goal.
Yeah.
But within the first 4 minutes, Spain found themselves 1-0 down.
Yeah. Honestly, at that point, obviously that was a shock, but it did feel like, I don't know if maybe I even texted this to you, like, oh my gosh, why do Spain continue to do this? Put themselves in a hole just to have to dig out of it. And I thought in that moment we were going to see a mirroring of the Colombia game, where it was then going to become, especially when Brazil had opportunity after opportunity to put a second goal away and they didn't. It really did feel like, okay, this is just a matter of time before Spain can take a hold of this, equalize, and then eventually put another one away. But that second goal from Brazil really put Spain on their heels. And to be honest, when Spain came out in the second half and nothing had changed, and it was actually like they lost even more control of the game, that's, I think, when Brazil grabbed, I hate this phrase, I'm going to use it, they just grabbed this game by the scruff of the neck. They just took control and they used it and they ran away with it. And I don't even know where to begin. Do you want to start with Spain or Brazil, Allie? Because I feel like I want to talk about Spain, because I think everybody's wondering what went wrong.
I think we have to start with Spain, because it's hard to say when they say what went wrong, because I don't feel like anything major went wrong. I just think they couldn't play Brazil. They didn't know how to play Brazil. And yeah, they beat them in the groups, but you have to remember that was the game that Marta got sent off. So that already threw Brazil off. You watch the semi-final back, Spain just couldn't play Brazil. They didn't like the physicality of Brazil. They didn't like the pace of Brazil. They would get the ball and not know how to get past, because Brazil played it brilliantly, where they literally pulled every player back and it was a 9-player block every time they tried to score. Brazil was picking their pockets just like Colombia did, and they couldn't handle the pace, and they just weren't together. You know, you look at the I think it's the third goal they conceded. The ball hit the bar, then it went to another player that the goalkeeper managed to get a hand to. It went to another Brazilian player who pinged it over, and they slotted it home before the goalkeeper even had an idea that the ball was still in her area. So
yeah, I think defense is a big one. Everything starts with defense, and especially when you play a team like Brazil, but everything starts with defense. And Spain have made it this far in this tournament for many reasons, but just to this point, partly it's because they've got individual talent and they can score goals. And it didn't matter that they let in 2 against Colombia, because they could come back, and eventually that was going to catch up to them. Look, and we just talked a little bit in the intro, foreshadow, kind of saying, why is it that a team can't go back-to-back World Cup and then Olympics? Obviously, there's something about it. It's a different tournament, like you said. So it's not necessarily Spain specific, but I think there is a part of this that is Spain specific. And we have to talk about something that we haven't actually mentioned regarding Spain in this tournament yet, which is the fact that they won the World Cup. And a year later, essentially less than, but Bonmati went on the BBC and said that nothing's changed. We won the World Cup and nothing is different. And we have to factor that in here. Look, you can do a lot with individual talent, and Spain have a ton of it, and it will get you far. And it has. It's gotten them to a bronze medal match, but it can't win you a back-to-back tournament. It can't win you a gold medal after you've won the World Cup. And especially when I feel like if you win a World Cup with the hope, I guess, that if we do this, something will change, and then nothing changes, imagine what that does to the players. I mean, you look at the difference between these two teams, and Brazil looked like they had something to play for, And Spain's just did not.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that was the biggest problem. They, like I said, they went down really early, and then it was 2 goals before the half, and you didn't ever feel that they had that urgency about them, and they sort of picked it up with some of their substitutions, but you did sort of feel that they were done, and that's the sad thing. It was just it didn't. Whereas Brazil have a lot to prove. They were the underdogs in this match, let's be honest. And it's weird to say that Brazil were the underdogs, but they were. And they came out fighting. And I'm hoping that maybe this is a wake-up call for the Spanish team, federation, whoever it needs to be, that things do need to change.
Yeah, I 100% put this on the system and the federation. This was a failure on behalf of them and the coach, and not the players. And I say the coach because the coach, Tomé, was instated after you-know-who was let go after the infamous incident at the World Cup, and she's part of this system. Nothing has changed. This is a failure on behalf of the federation. And the fact that nothing has changed in these... the fact that nothing changed from the first half to the second half, you can even look at it that way. That's not good coaching. It was a failure from top to bottom. You can talk about the minutia, the tactics, the coaching tactics within this game. You can talk about them within the tournament, or you can talk about it in the larger sense of the federation having failed this team and like time after time. And instating Tomé as coach is just one of those reasons, or just one of those, I guess, bullet points in the way that the federation has failed these players. And I certainly feel for them, but they do have one more game to go. And I feel like we can talk tactics about Spain and what went wrong, but at the end of the day, I really do think that it is a larger issue as to what has, quote, gone wrong. They're playing in a bronze medal match. It's not that bad, but like, I think that it's a larger issue here.
But I do want to talk about the victors in this in Brazil, because I thought Brazil played a brilliant game. They had a game plan and executed it brilliantly. We talked about last episode where I talked about teams nullifying key players, and you see it successfully. Sometimes you don't. I feel like Brazil didn't let Spain anywhere near the park. They really didn't. They were the pace on them was just in the midfield. That's where they won it. Spain's midfield didn't show up today. Brazil's did. And like I said, they went into the half 2-0 up. They got 3-0 up by the 71st minute. Like, that is some going. And yeah, they just were tactically on point. They did beautiful tackles. There was a couple of them that I was like, oh, you're going to get a yellow. But the ref was a bit more lenient than normal.
I couldn't agree more. Like, we talked about Spain first and what happened there, but that's not to take any credit away from Brazil. They 100% deserved this victory, and they deserved this scoreline. And the fact that Brazil came out, listen, they played a 3-back against Spain. That is gutsy. And it paid off. And it was for all of the reasons you just mentioned, Allie. And everybody was firing on all cylinders. It's the fact that Arthur Elias has been able to switch up the starting 11 from game to game. The legs are more fresh. You saw Ludmila get the start today. She's kind of started on and off almost like every other game. Same with a few other players. Gabby Portillo scored that first goal. And I agree with you. You mentioned that third goal. I think that's when everything felt like it was iced.
I want to talk about a player that you touched on, which is Ludmila, because she was playing a slightly different position today, and the distribution that she had I know she got taken off quite early on in the second half, but the distribution she had playing slightly further back, getting that ball so far off the pitch. And again, we're talking about the pace of that front line, getting there before the Spanish defenders could. And I think that's all Brazil, and it was all tactics about her being slightly different. It was just beautiful. It was just beautiful, and there is no other words for it.
I totally agree. I mean, she's had an outstanding tournament, and I think she's flown under the radar, partially because she just hasn't played, like all 90 of every game, and because Brazil's been up and down. Anyways, she's been outstanding. She was in a different role. She's usually more of like a forward, and this time she played kind of like that wing back role, so she was up and down a lot more, helping out on defense. But the fact that she was even able to get forward as much as she was in that wing back position, she's had an outstanding tournament. Tim and I talked about it. She just signed with Chicago Red Stars. I think she's going to fit in beautifully in the NWSL. I think she's going to start to shine. But we can look at the starting lineup and honestly, not even the starters for Brazil, just across the board. Everybody had an incredible game. I mean, should we start at the back with Lorena, who came up unbelievably huge and has this whole tournament? She's been on fire and it's just continued. And then you continue to look across the board. I mean, Yasmin with one of the most gorgeous assists, just tucking that ball behind the back line. Gabby Portillo had a game. She had a goal and an assist. Just truly across the board, like a team win for Brazil.
Absolutely. If the Olympics actually did a Golden Glove award, I would say Lorena is up there, because there was a shot where Spain she was 1-on-1. It was this, I can't remember which Spanish player it was, but it was 1-on-1, and the save that Lorena made to knock it out for a corner to keep Brazil in it, I think it was only 2-0 at that point, was absolutely massive. I think she's probably my goalkeeper of the tournament so far, and I'm excited to see what she can do in the gold medal match, but it was absolutely phenomenal.
I agree, and that's saying something, because we've had a lot of praise for a lot of goalkeepers in this tournament so far. We can't move on from this game without talking about the fact that Marta was unavailable. Her red card suspension got increased to a 2-game suspension, which was no surprise to either of us based on the precedent that was set. But with Mayra Ramirez's red card, we knew that Marta would be back for the medal match. And now she will be back for the gold medal match. You kind of get chills when you think about it. Like, is it written in the stars for Brazil? They certainly seem to be playing for Marta. And honestly, they've spoken also about how they're not just playing for Marta, they're playing for all of the players that came before them, Formiga, Cristiani, everybody that built this program. They've been willed forward by this. Does this energy that Brazil have, like, does it feel written in the stars for them because of Marta?
I 100%, and when we get to predictions, we'll talk about it, because as somebody pointed out 3 years ago, Canada did it for Sync, and there is a certain energy to that. There is a certain, like, je ne sais quoi about it, and having her back for the gold medal match, I think, is pretty damn special. They're replaying over here the speech she did when Brazil got knocked out of the World Cup, and the chills whenever I see that. So yeah, I've had that on repeat.
I think I cry every time I watch that. And I honestly, when I thought Brazil was going to get knocked out in the group stage, I turned off the TV a little bit early, because I was just like, if they interview Marta again, I can't do this. We can't go through this again. But we didn't. Here we are. Brazil will be playing in the gold medal match with Marta on Saturday. Spain will be playing in the bronze medal match on Friday, and they will be taking on the U.S. and Germany, respectively. So let's talk about the other game.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
Over to the other semi-final match. It was the USA versus Germany. The USA took it 1-0 in the first half of the extra time that got added on. So it wasn't the battering that I thought it was going to be.
I do believe I said, though, that it's hard to beat a team twice. And I think this game also just proved that. I mean, both semifinals really did. It should be noted, before the game, Germany announced that they would be without 2 huge players in Pop and Schuler. Pop with an infection. Nothing else reported on. We don't know more than that, just an infection. Schuler, inflammation of the patellar tendon. And on the flip side, the USA got Sam Coffey back from the yellow card suspension, and they got Tierna Davidson back for half of the game. I mean, when you look at it that way, Germany at less strength than they were when they first played the US, but quite honestly, put up a way better fight. This game was, in my opinion, dead even. Either team would have deserved the victory. Both teams did certain things well, and both teams did certain things terribly, or not terribly, but not as well. That was harsh.
No, it wasn't as exciting, but I will say if Germany had had Pop or somebody with a bit more height in the box, we could be very much looking at a very different scoreline. I thought it was a much improved Germany from the group stages, from the one that we thought was going to die a death in the groups. I thought the USA played pretty well as well. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Your midfield was still a bit dicey, but the front three proved again once why they are once in generational talents. You know, Smith, Swanson and Rodman. When they play up front, it's a beautiful full thing to watch. I thought Rodman was a bit too far back. The system, let's talk USA before we talk Germany, because there's a lot to talk about with the USA.
There's a lot to talk about with both, and like we just kind of mentioned, I want to give a lot of credit where credit is due to Germany, because this game really could have gone either way. And you alluded to a goal scorer being gone for Germany, and I truly think that was the only difference. Germany was missing somebody that could just put the ball in the back of the net, that has a nose for that. Schuler and Pop are arguably the two best goal scorers, or I would say the two most natural goal scorers that Germany has, and neither of them were there. And the difference was the USA created more dangerous opportunities, and then they capitalized on one more chance than Germany did. We could talk US tactics for ages, as you know, so I'm going to try to keep it tight. Regarding Trinity Rodman, it seems that Emma Hayes is having her play a little further back. So you have the front three with Swanson on the left, Smith in the middle, and Rodman on the right side. And Emma Hayes is having Rodman on that right side track much further back and kind of leaving Swanson and Smith alone up top. I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm also not Emma Hayes. I don't have countless trophies, so I'm aware that me saying that I don't love it as a tactic is, whatever. But I think what happens when Rodman does that is that it just takes her ability to play with Smith and Swanson completely out of the equation. And the US are most lethal when you can have the three of them playing in a very dynamic fashion together. And dare I say, I do think that pulling Rodman back is because of that weaker midfield that you alluded to. The US needed help on defense in the midfield because Germany were going right up their throat, just straight down the middle against the US. And that is brutal. When a team goes straight down your throat like that, you have to pull other numbers into the middle. There's no other choice.
No, 100%. And that was clearly what the tactic was. It's just you saw it missing when Smith did these really clever cutbacks and there was no one there to pick them up, and you felt like if Rodman was allowed that bit more freedom to be a bit more forward, that Rodman probably would have been there and this game could have been put to bed a lot earlier.
Other than that, I mean, we've talked about the midfield of the US. We don't need to beat a dead horse. I think that the bullet points for me on the US are, first and foremost, Naomi Girma and the front three. Naomi Girma is a special, special player. We knew it before the World Cup because we'd watched her a lot. I think the world learned it last year at the World Cup, and this has just reinforced. And honestly, I'll pull a quote because Emma Hayes was asked in the press conference after the game about Naomi Girma, and she said, quote, "Look, she's the best defender I've ever seen, ever." That says a lot. Yeah. While we're on the press conference, a couple funny things just about the U.S. Apparently, Sophia Smith confirmed that when she scored, she was just simply too tired to run for her goal celebration, and so she laid down, which I found pretty funny. Emma Hayes commented on Sophia Smith and said, quote, "Soph has just fucking gone on another level in this tournament," and that also says it all. I'll comment that we said Swanson was nowhere. She couldn't really find the game in the quarters. Boy, did she find it in this game. She was everywhere. Is this the best game we've ever seen the U.S. play? No, but luckily, we're moving on from that narrative with the U.S. women's national team that every game has to be like the best game that they've ever played. They got the job done. This was the second game of 120 minutes back to back with, frankly, very little rotation. So a lot of minutes on the same starting 11. My last question to you is, will Horan start the final? Because she has not had a good tournament. I think we can objectively say now she has not had a good tournament. When Julie Foudy calls you out for not having a good tournament, that's when you know, because Julie Foudy is going to keep it positive until she really can't find anything else to keep it positive about. What do you think, Allie?
I think she's going to. Whether she should is another question. I think that Emma Hayes will keep the lineup that she's had because she's had success with it and it's worked. For the most part, do I think Horan has earned her spot as captain and as a starter? Absolutely not. I get it. And I said it to you. I get it. She is a voice in the changing room. She is that leadership from transitioning from the old guard to the new guard. I get it. I really do. But you should be doing what you did with Pino last tournament and bring them on as a super sub, bring them on, or just have them as that voice, because she's not doing it on the field at all. And that's not Horan hate. She's just not.
It's crazy because arguably she had one of the better tournaments in the World Cup. I think Naomi Girma obviously stand out, but Lindsey Horan was like the one of the few players we could rely on in the midfield in the World Cup, and it's just not been good for her this tournament. A lot of giveaways. Other teams have started to jump on it. You saw Germany start to double team Horan to try to force the turnovers and then pick up the ball in the middle of the field when she does turn it over. So we will see, but I guess I'll say this: the U.S., they look a little less dynamic than they did at the beginning of this tournament, but I think that's fully attributed to the fact that these are tired legs, and there's only so much you can do when your legs are feeling that heavy. We will see what happens with Tierna Davidson, I guess, is the last thing. She was pulled at halftime and she was limping after the game. I think everybody's hope was that she was just pulled at halftime for limited minutes because of that bone contusion, but we don't know. Maybe the injury has flared back up. That will obviously play a role, who's starting at center back alongside Naomi Girma in the final, but also Naomi Girma is Naomi Girma, and maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe you or I could start alongside her and it would be fine.
I'm not sad about it because I got Sonnet, and we all know how I feel about Sonnet.
All right, let's talk Germany, because we spent a long time on the US, and we have to give Germany a lot of credit because they played a fantastic game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, this was like worlds apart from the group stage and the Germany that we thought was going to fall apart. And we said it ourselves. You see those two names not on the roster, you're like, that's it. They're going to absolutely fall apart. But they were physical. They were dynamic. I thought the quick release of Berger whenever she got the ball to pump it into midfield, because that was exploiting the US's weakness, was great. I thought Gwyn was a fantastic captain and was really leading the team despite being a very young player, and that is a lot of pressure on some very young shoulders. I thought she was great. I thought Bull was brilliant, like running that flank and was giving Emily Fox trouble.
I mean, you just mentioned a few, like Buell, so let's talk about their midfield too. What a rotation in their midfield. What they were able to do, I mean, both as a team tactically and individually as players, what they did was so difficult, and they executed it to perfection, because it was essentially like a rotating dynamic midfield where, yes, everybody had a starting position, but then you just kind of like fell wherever you were on the field, defensively or offensively. You just plugged into that role. And this is like a Julie Brand, who usually plays on the outside. We're finding her in the middle of the field at many points, and vice versa with somebody like Lohman, who usually plays in the middle, and then we were finding her on the outside. It was so dynamic, and that's part of what was tearing up the middle of the field and why they could go straight down the throat of the U.S. And like I said at the beginning, really the only difference is that they just didn't have that killer instinct up top. I mean, I really think Nicole Anyomi was a replacement for Schuler, and I'm a big fan of Anyomi. She plays in the Frauen Bundesliga. I think she's a really good young talent. She was kind of one of like the snubs ish of the German roster of recent, where a lot of people think that she should be getting more playing time and such. But when it came down to it, she didn't add that element on the attacking front. She was everywhere defensively. Her work rate was great. I mean, everybody on this field, their work rate was outstanding. But she just didn't add that killer element. And she's young. Hopefully she'll grow into it. That's a big thing to ask of a young player to come on, the world stage in a semifinal. But that's what was missing.
Yeah, no, 100%. I do want to give a shout out to their back line as well. I thought defensively they were top notch. They let the goal in because of tired legs. I thought Heggering was playing football the way I like it, which was brutal.
Heggering was not playing football. She was playing rugby or hockey. Listen, I'm a huge fan of the center back pairing. We talked about them in the preview. I think I mentioned it. I like the pairing of Heggering and Hendrick, but not in this game. I was ready to rip some heads off in this game.
I was going to say, you were ready to fight some Germans because you were like,
I was getting defensive though,
like,
too.
It was a shoulder barge. It's fine. It's a shoulder barge. It's fine. A free kick is what's deserved. No, it should be a card.
Listen, I know what you're talking about, and she was playing the person and not the ball, and I stand by that, but I concede it wasn't a card. Germany's been fantastic, and who doesn't love a Germany-Spain matchup? And that's what we're going to get.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm very excited by these medal matches.
Anything else on Germany? I mean, Ann-Katrin Berger, while we're mentioning keepers, had a great game. It was just obviously one that slipped by her. Alyssa Nair came up huge as she usually does. She had the weirdest mid-air kick save I've ever seen to keep a goal out at the end of extra time. Again, both keepers. It's been a tournament of goalkeepers.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
All right, and we will see Germany in the bronze medal match versus Spain. So why not? Let's just get into predictions.
So this is part of the episode that you all love and are waiting for our predictions on who's going to win what, where, how, and with what scoreline. So let's start with the bronze medal match because that is the first match chronologically that will be happening on Friday. And as we mentioned, that is against Germany versus Spain. So Sarah, what are you thinking? Who's going to take it?
This is a hard one. It's going to be low scoring, I think. I think in a tournament, energy means a lot. And when we're talking about especially a bronze medal match, it's really hard to motivate yourself for a bronze medal match. You've just lost. You wanted to be in the gold medal match, and now you have to play for third place, which kind of feels like, why are we doing this sometimes? So this is always, in every bronze medal match, I think it's always a matter of who can switch on mentally for it. And across the board, you can layer this on then in all tournaments, energy, momentum means something. Germany are gaining momentum right now. I think they just played one of their best games that we've seen them play as a team. And I didn't think Spain showed well at all. So I'm going Germany.
That is on a limb. That is indeed on a limb.
I think it's Germany 2-1 in extra time.
I'm very torn on this. I am very torn on this because my head is saying Spain because Spain have the goal scorers. They have the bench. And they've also got a point to prove that they're going to want to come away with some silverware after having won the World Cup and a fairly disappointing Euros for them. However, if it's anything based on the performance that we saw tonight, Germany will nick it 1-0.
All right, I'm going to throw this next one to you then. First and foremost, Allie. Gold medal match. We've got USA versus Brazil. Two teams that know each other very well, might I add. They've played 19 games against each other since 2007. It feels like more than that, to be totally frank. It feels like we play them at least 3 times a year. The USA won 13 games total. Brazil won 3 games, and there have been 3 draws. So obviously, I think that the bookies are going to point to the US. But we've talked about the Marta effect. We've talked about energy. What do you think?
Again, this is really tough. I'm going Brazil.
Oh my gosh.
I am going Brazil because I do think that sentimentality, that want and need for the generations that have gone before to build for the generations that are coming is going to outstrip a rather knackered USA because I don't see Emma Hayes changing the lineup. I don't see it. So you're going to be playing Whereas we mentioned Brazil have had rotation and they've got fresher legs. Emma Hayes has stuck to her lineup and only changed it when she needed to because of injury or card. So I'm going to give it to Brazil. I think it's going to be a feisty one. I do think there's going to be a couple of goals in it, but I'm giving it to Brazil.
What's the score?
2-1 Brazil.
Here's the thing. I said, oh my gosh, because I genuinely thought you were going to pick the U.S. And I was really excited because I was going to shock you, shock the listeners, and shock the world and say it's hard to bet against Brazil right now. It just is. They've got the most momentum out of any of these 4 teams. Germany, Spain, U.S., Brazil, without a doubt. Brazil have the most momentum and they've got the most energy coming into this. It's really hard to bet against them, and it's honestly hard to pick anything other than wanting Marta to get a gold medal in her final Olympics game ever. So I was going to say Brazil. I really was. But now that you've said Brazil, I feel like you've given me a free pass to be like, well, we can't have 2 of the same answers. I'm going to say the U.S. I think history does matter. I think that the U.S. have Brazil's number. We see that historically. And I have fewer reasons for why the U.S. could win. Because I was going to say Brazil. I think, I think it's the U.S. I don't want to discount the energy that the U.S. have. We're obviously Brazil have the most momentum, the most energy. The U.S., they just are a little bit tired physically. But I think emotionally, in their soul, this is the most energized we've seen a U.S. women's national team since 2019. Easily. So it's going to be hard. They feel like this is... Emma Hayes is going to try to sugarcoat it and be like, no, this is all a learning process still. We're not here to win gold. But no, at the end of the day, this team is in the gold medal match. This is Emma Hayes, and this is the U.S. women's national team. They are going to be out for blood and revenge. They want a gold medal, and I think it's theirs. I think it's going to be a thriller, and I think that it's going to Pens. Wow. I think it's going to Pens in the U.S. win.
Wow.
We've seen thrillers between these two teams. Yeah. Everybody will always remember, at least everybody in the U.S. will always remember that game where the U.S. came back and in extra time, Megan Rapinoe hit that long cross and back post, Abby Wambach heads it in. There have been thrillers between these teams, and I think that this one is just going to be one that will add to the history books of thrillers of matchups between the U.S. and Brazil, and I'm so excited. And I hope that the U.S. finally get to wear their red kits, because I'm really sick of
the white kits.
It's going to be a thriller, and I hope the U.S. are in their red kits. We did it, Allie. There's 2 more games left in this tournament. Friday is the bronze medal match. Saturday is the gold medal match. So our final Olympics episode, shed a tear, will drop on Sunday, everybody, and we will see you then. And for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sara.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.